Hello everyone, my name is Mr. Minnick. Mr. Minnick's my name, Algebra 2 is my game. Today what we're going to do is take a look at 19 questions that are basically the same ones that are going to be on an upcoming pencil paper test in my Algebra 2 classes. And the first one, and now on the test it's going to be multiple choice, but here we go. The first one, it says simplify. If you remember the notes from this section, the notes were to factor and cancel. So here we go. We're going to factor, we're going to cancel. The numerator here is going to factor into x plus 6 and x minus 4. The denominator here is going to factor into x minus 7 and x minus 4. So once we do that, some stuff, the stuff being the binomial factors of x minus 4. Remember, numerators cancel denominators, so x minus 4 cancels x minus 4. And our final answer here would be x plus 6 over x minus 7. If this was a math Excel test or quiz, remember there would be a part, what are the restrictions on the variable? It's not, so we don't have to worry about that. If it were, the restrictions would be x is not allowed to equal 7 and x is not allowed to equal 4. But anyway, that's the first one. How's everybody doing so far, okay? Well, that one wasn't so bad. Again, just a reminder, some people want to cancel this x with that x. You can't do that because things are being added. You cannot do that. And just to kind of show you what would happen if you tried to, do that, I always ask the question, if you canceled those, what would you turn them into? What would you turn the x's into? Ones or zeros? Suppose you turn them into ones. What we've got is x, we don't know what x is, x plus 6 over x minus 7. Some people say, well, let's make this a 1 and let's make this a 1. Okay, so that's going to be a 7 over negative 6. But what would happen if x was equal to 3? If x equaled 3, we would have 3 plus 6 over, which is 9, over negative 4. And these two things aren't the same. They don't have the same decimal equivalent. So I guess the point is you really can't cancel those things like people want to. So, all right. By the way, I almost forgot, happy Cinco de Mayo to everybody. I hope everybody gets a chance to eat some good food today. Oh my gosh, where did this come from? We didn't see one this bad. Wow. Thanks a lot. What a way to start off a Monday. That is not pleasant to look at. Several ways to handle this one. What I would probably do is start off by multiplying 2 by x over x. Okay. So when I do that, my numerator is still going to be 4 over x minus 4. My denominator now is going to be 6 plus 2x all over x. Okay, that's going to make this one a little easier to work with. So remember with fractions, when you divide fractions, it's kind of like Pink Floyd, 4 over x minus 4. We leave that first fraction alone and we invert the second one. We invert the second one and multiply. So I'm going to flip the second one and multiply x over 6 plus 2x. Now at this point, people get confused and they want to do some cross multiplying and stuff like that. You could cross cancel maybe, but there ain't no cross multiplying here. We're not solving a proportion. So what we end up with here then is 4x over, and we got to multiply the denominators. When we multiply the denominators, we're going to get 2x squared. If I FOIL, I'll get minus 24 on the end. I'm going to get, that was the 2x squared. That's already taken care of. What else am I going to get? I'm going to get minus 8x plus 6x. minus 8x out of that, minus 8x out of that, and then plus 6x. So I guess that's going to give me minus 2x here. So if I look at that, I'm thinking to myself, you know, that's not finished just yet because the denominator, 2x squared, 2x and 24, I could factor a 2 out of all that. So what I've got is 4x over 2 times x squared minus x minus 12. And I can reduce this 4 with this 2. The 2 is going to become a 1. The 4 is going to become a 2. So my final answer here ought to be 2 over, and then that denominator, it actually factors into x minus 4 and x plus 3. And I'm going to consult my test. I actually got a copy of the test. Maybe I shouldn't say that out loud because somebody's going to try to steal it from me. But in the final answer, this one here, x squared minus x minus 12, that'll show up. So that's our final answer. That one wasn't fun, was it? Anybody want to see that one worked out a different way? So it's not 2 over x minus 4 and x plus 3. No, they didn't leave the denominator in factored form. They left it in the unfactored form like that. Question. Why did I flip the fraction? Remember when you divide fractions, going from, let me get my magic marker going here. I said, let me get my magic marker. Going from this step here to this step here. Remember when you divide fractions, we don't know how to divide fractions. So what we do is we leave the first fraction alone, but then we take the second fraction and we invert it. We flip it over and we multiply. And we multiply. Okay. So there is a different way I could have done this, but either way, that's where we end up with on that one. I'll be honest, that one's pretty scary, isn't it? It's probably the worst one. Probably the worst one. So let's see what we got now. Oh, we got some stuff that's going to probably cross-cancel here. Let's see. D squared and D are going to cross-cancel. The D in the denominator becomes just a 1. And the D squared in the numerator is going to become just a D to the first power. Okay. So when I write up my final answer here, I'm going to have a D to the first power. Similarly, the E in the denominator is going to go completely away and turn into a 1. The e to the fifth in the numerator is going to become e to what power? E to the fourth. Nice, good. So that's an e to the fourth. And then the f's, we're going to get the f out of there. And then there's just a 5 left. Wait a minute, there's a 5 and a 4. So the 5's in the numerator, the 4's in the denominator, and that's it. That's it. I can't believe that just happened. Well, I can, but anyway. All right. We doing all right with that one? Okay. Ooh. Again, remember the notes that we had on this stuff. Factor and cancel. Factor and cancel. Factor and cancel. This first fraction's not over anything, so I'm going to put it over 1. And I'm just going to kind of rewrite my numerator. X minus 4. X plus 5. My denominator, I can factor x squared minus 16. If you don't remember, we have an albino in the room. It doesn't mean there's somebody with really light colored hair and light colored skin, but there's a difference of 2 squares. So we're going to have x something and x something, plus and minus the same thing. Whoop, I said plus and minus the same thing. And that same thing is the square root of 16, so I guess that's 4 and 4. And so now we cancel some stuff. X minus 4 cancels x minus 4, and our final answer here is just x plus 5 over x plus 4. And that's that. Well, that one wasn't so bad, was it? On Math Excel, good question. The restrictions to that one would be that x is not allowed to equal -4 or x is not allowed to equal +4. The graph of that, if we had a function, and this is something unfortunately that this year we're not going to look at a whole lot, but if we graph this function f of x equals x minus 4 times x plus 5 over x squared minus 16, the graph of that thing is so cool looking. The graph of that thing, what it looks like, is when x is 4. When x is 4, the graph kind of has a hole in it like this. And then when x is -4, that's when x is 4. When x is -4, the graph kind of does some weird stuff like this. Like there's this imaginary vertical line in the graph. And just, I think we got a little bit of time. I'm going to go ahead and graph that just to kind of show you how weird looking it is. If anybody plans on taking pre-calculus, this is the kind of things that you study in pre-calculus. And time permitting, maybe later this year we'll revisit this idea. So yeah, if we graphed the function in the numerator x minus 4, and also x plus 5? X plus 5. That's over the quantity x squared minus 16. And I'm going to do a zoom 6, a standard window. See how there's that weird line right there when x is -4? So when x is -4, watch what it says the y value is. What's the y value? There isn't one because the function is undefined there. So let me do a zoom decimal. And let me trace this and let me see what happens when x gets out to 4. You can actually kind of see the hole. Anybody see it out there where x equals 4? X is 3.7, 3.8, 3.9. Watch what happens at 4. At 4, what's the y value? There isn't one. If we do a table, in the table would say, I think it says error or und, maybe. Let me set my table to start at -4 and go by ones. I said go by ones. So yeah, error at -4, and there's going to be an error at 4 as well. Okay. So it's kind of weird what those things are called. The hole right there, it's got a really fancy name. You don't need to know it right now, but it's a removable discontinuity is what it's called. It's a fancy word to say it's a hole in the graph. It's a removable discontinuity. This line right here, it's a line that the graph gets close to. It's kind of, you got to be careful how you pronounce it. The P is silent. It's an asymptote. It's an asymptote. So anyway, again, maybe we'll study some of those later on this year. But. All right, so here we are with this one. Remember, factor, cancel. Factor, cancel. So this n squared minus 9, we have a albino in the room. N plus 3, n minus 3, and an n. Remember, I just make one big fraction out of everything. Where'd the n come from? The n was the n that was there. On the denominator, my n plus 3 is this n plus 3. Got that. That 2n minus 6, what can I do with the 2n minus 6? Nice, factor out of 2. Awesome. Good. 2 times the quantity, n minus 3. Remember, cancel stuff that cancels. N plus 3 cancels n plus 3. N minus 3 cancels n minus 3. Final answer here is n over 2. And then that's it. I'd like to give a shout out to the future Mr. Minnick. I'd like to give a shout out to Mason Butler. Nate loves you. I'd like to give a shout out to my first period class for bringing their A game today on a Monday. I'd like to give a shout out to Mike Jones. Who? Mike Jones. Well, here's another one. Again, factor and cancel. X squared minus 36. We have an albino in the room. X plus 6, X minus 6. That's all over X plus 5. I like to say let's make a big fraction out of this. Let's make a big fraction. So I'm just extending my fraction bar now. That X plus 6, it says let's divide by X plus 6. That's dividing by X plus 6 over 1. When I divide by a fraction, what do? I multiply by its reciprocal, so I'm going to flip it over. So where's that X plus 6 really going to go? In the bottom into the denominator. So in the denominator, I'm going to have an X plus 6. And I could put the 1 up there, but I really don't need to. So does anything cancel? X plus 6 is, yeah. X plus 6 cancels X plus 6. So on this one, our final answer is X minus 6 over X plus 5. These really aren't that bad if you know how to factor and if you know how to divide fractions, right? Okay. Welp. I really wish that were a word. Welp. W-H-E-L-P. Welp. I've seen people use it in print. So this next one again, factor, cancel. This factors into X plus 3, X plus 7. The denominator, we have an albino in the room. X plus 3, X minus 3. We make a big fraction and we invert it. In other words, we flip it. We multiply by the reciprocal. So what's going to go in the top? X minus 7 is going to go up top, good. And so then the X plus 7 will be dropped as if it's hot. We go put that in the denominator. X plus 7 cancels X plus 7. And X plus 3 cancels X plus 3. And we're left with X minus 7 over X minus 3. Again, if this were Math Excel, the restrictions are that X is not allowed to equal -3, +3, and -7. If we graphed this thing, the graph would have holes at -3 and at -7, and it would have an asymptote at 3, but that's another story. So, how's everybody doing? All right. This test should be pretty easy, huh? Oh, we're adding now. We're adding, and the denominators are the same. Well, that's nice. The denominators are the same, so the denominator is going to stay what it was. A lot of people make mistakes here. If the denominators are the same, the denominator is going to be what the denominator is. So it's all over 15x, and now we just combine like terms. So up top, what do we end up with? -3x, yeah, the 3 plus -3, those cancel, so we end up with -3x in the top. Now the directions will say add and simplify, so can we reduce anything here? Oh yeah. The x's cancel each other out, and then the 3 and the 15 are both divisible by 3. The 3 turns into a 1, and the 15 turns into a 5, so we end up with -1 over 5 as our final answer there. Okay, so -3x over 15x is an intermediate answer, but it does reduce to -1/5. Doing all right? All right, well, we got another one just like it. This time, we're going to be over -4x. Some people don't like that negative in the denominator. It's okay. We'll leave it there for now. We'll leave it there for now. It's not doing any harm just yet. Let's see what we get in the numerator. 2x minus 3x is going to be -x. And hey, the 6's go away, right? So can we reduce anything here? Or cancel anything? The x's cancel each other and the negatives cancel each other. What do we end up with on this one? just 1/4. The x cancels the x, and the negative cancels the negative. This ends up being positive 1/4, and then that's it. And then that's it. Wow. Well, up to now, everything's been pretty straightforward. Now is where we're trying to. Anybody ever try to back a really short trailer? Backing a trailer is a challenge in itself. Backing a short trailer is really challenging. Well, these aren't horrible, but check this out. Our denominators are not the same, so we're going to have to multiply each fraction by something so that the denominators are identical. So I'm going to multiply the fraction on the left by x minus 8 over x minus 8 because that's really equal to 1, and 1's a multiplicative identity, and it doesn't change the value. And then on the other side, I'm going to multiply that by x plus 8 over x plus 8. And the biggest mistake that people make here is they forget to multiply the numerators by that stuff as well. So I know my denominator is going to be x minus 8 and x plus 8. What I get in the numerator, part of it comes from this product. I'm going to have 4x minus 32 plus some other stuff. The other stuff comes from this product. That's 7x and 56. So I combine all my like terms, put everything together. Everything's still going to be over x minus 8 and x plus 8. And I get 4x plus 7x is 11x. And I get 56 plus negative 32. I guess that's going to give me, is that 24? And then that's that. And then that's it. With this one, they might, on the test, write it as 11x plus 24 over something else. What would that be over? X squared minus 64. Good. Okay. On the test, make sure you could recognize it as that as well. Even though this is the right answer, this is too. They're both equivalent, but make sure you could recognize the last thing there too. What do we think? Well, that gets us halfway through. That gets us up to the midpoint. Maybe at this point in time we should go down and get some food for Cinco de Mayo from the French room or the Spanish room. I could go for some plantains right about now. Anybody ever have a plantain? Plantains are kind of like bananas, I think. Well, this one here is a lot like the last one. We want to get the denominators identical, so we're going to multiply by x plus 4 over x plus 4. And we're going to multiply here by x minus 4 over x minus 4. So our denominator is going to be x minus 4 and x plus 4. Our numerator is going to be 6x minus 24 plus some stuff plus 5x plus 20. So everything's going to be all over x squared minus 16. We're going to get 11x minus 4. And there we go. Speaking of food, if anyone is interested in the best Mexican food, genuine Mexican food, not Taco Bell. Taco Bell isn't food, and it isn't Mexican food. I'm not going to comment on what Taco Bell is. I will say that when you eat Taco Bell, make sure that you're 5 minutes away from a bathroom or less. Anyhow, if you want some really good, genuine Mexican food, there's a new restaurant in Newton Falls. I'm going to plug them. It's Mi Amigos. It should be called Mis Amigos. I had 4 years of Spanish, so I know a little bit of Spanish. It should be Mis Amigos, but it's the name of it is Mi Amigos. It's amazing. The prices aren't cheap, but the food, everything's fresh. It's amazing. I had a Hawaiian quesadilla. It was like a breakfast Hawaiian quesadilla. It had ham and pineapple and bacon and steak and chicken and peppers, and it was out of this world. It was ridiculous. Anyway, so this next one, again, to maintain some anonymity, I changed the variables up. On the test, they might use a different variable, like J. But it's the same question, and the biggest problem I have with this one, do you see that little hyphen in front of the first fraction? It's a negative sign. That's kind of scary. Just to make this a little bit easier to deal with, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to move that negative sign up to the, I'm going to try to move it up. Grouping, ungroup. Okay, I'm going to put that negative sign with the 4, okay? How do you solve proportions? You drive down Knoll Edge Road. No, you don't drive down Knoll Edge Road. How do you solve proportions? Cross multiply. So the cross product, the one cross product is going to be -4. The other cross product, I'm probably going to surprise some people when I write what I write, but it's going to be x squared minus 2x minus 3. Where'd that come from? Well, that came from foiling x plus 1 and x minus 3, because that's x squared plus x minus 3x minus 3, and this makes the minus 2x. Okay. We doing all right so far? So what we've got here is not a failure to communicate, like that one Guns N' Roses song says. What was it? Which song was that? Civil War or something like that? What we've got is a quadratic equation. The best way to solve these we've seen is to try to factor it. X squared minus 2x. Let's put everything on the left. So if we add 4, we add 4. That's going to be plus 1. That all equals 0. That all equals 0. If we get things equal to 0 and we factor this, we factor x, signs have to be the same, minus, minus, one's factors are 1 and 1. Hey, we think that x equals 1 and x equals 1. If we plugged a 1 in, would it satisfy the original equation? -4 over 1 plus 1, that's -4 over 2, that's -2. If we plugged a 1 in, we'd have -2 equals -2. It checks out, that's it, it's 1. X equals 1. Or J equals 1, whatever. But there it is. Any questions about that one? You know what's funny about this? Your test is going to be multiple choice. So if you don't want to solve this, what's another way you could do this? Plug in the answers and see which one or ones satisfy the original equation, right? Not a bad idea, huh? At this time, I'd like to give a shout out to Sarah Honeycutt. She missed I don't know what she learned in her last school, but she did pretty well on the last couple tests and quizzes. I'd also like to give a shout out to the future Mr. Minnick. He shouldn't be back there sleeping. Bob gets a shout out as well for turning his life around. Okay. So this next question, do you all remember when I said if the denominators are the same, then so are the numerators? Do you remember that from the notes a while back? That was last week. Whatever you do to one side of the equation, you got to do to the other side of the equation, right? What would happen if we flipped the one side of the equation over? Could we flip over the other side of the equation? Okay, so let's try that. So let's flip this and let's flip this. So we got x squared minus 1 over 3 equals x plus 1 over 3. If the denominators are the same, then oh, that didn't work. That so didn't work. If the denominators are the same, then so are the numerators. So hopefully I could get this to work. So what's that mean? Well, it means that we just have x squared minus 1 equals x plus 1, right? So there we go. So how do we solve this? X squared minus x minus something equals 0. So we would be subtracting 1 from here and subtract 1 from here. So that's going to give us minus 2, right? So let's see if we can't factor this. X and a 1, x and a 2. The signs have to be different. The 2's got to be negative. The 1's got to be positive. So we think the answers are negative 1 and positive 2. That's what we think. What happens if we plug a negative 1 back into the original equation? It rains for a week straight. It rains the day of prom, and your hair that you paid $68 to have cut and permed and curled and whatever, it goes away, even though you put 17 cans of hairspray on it. What happens when we plug negative 1 back into the original equation? If we put a negative 1 in right here, what happens? What do we get? We get a 0 in the denominator. Can that happen? So what do we say about negative 1? It's extraneous. It's not a solution. So the only solution here is the 2. Okay? 2 is the only solution. This negative 1 is extraneous. So we just get the one solution there. How's everybody doing so far? All right? Well, we got a few more to get through, so we solve proportions by driving down No Ledge Road. We get x squared minus 6x plus 8 equals x squared minus x minus 30. So, hey, wait a minute. We've got the same thing on both sides of the equation. What can we do? What can we do? What can we do? Can't we cancel the x squareds? Don't they go bye-bye? So we get add x. So we get negative 5x equals, we subtract 8. So we get negative 38. So we get x equals 38 fifths. That seems so weird for an answer. Seems like we did something wrong, doesn't it? Well, let's see if that satisfies the original equation. 38 fifths. Do your work. 38 fifths. Let me store that as x. So I want to know, is x minus 2 over x minus 6, is that equal to x plus 5 over x minus 4? Does anybody remember how the calculator says yes? It doesn't say yes. It doesn't say true. It doesn't say 0. It says 1 if it's true. There we go. Okay. All right. Well, we haven't seen one like this in a while. The goal is to get a proportion. We don't have one. We have a fraction plus a fraction equal to a fraction, but we don't have a proportion. It'd be nice if we did, but we don't. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get a proportion by getting a fraction 3x and 2x, the least common denominator would be 6x. So I'm going to multiply by 2 over 2 here. And over here, I'm going to multiply by 3 over 3. So what I get is 2x plus 2 over 6x plus 3 over, well, that's not plus, that's minus 3 over 6x equals a fourth. So I get 2x, 2 minus 3 is minus 1. So I get 2x minus 1 over 6x equals a fourth. Now I've got a proportion. And now I can go down Knowledge Road. So I get 8x minus 4 equals 6x. So I get 2x is 4, and I guess I get x is 2. X is 2. And that takes care of that one. How's everybody doing so far, okay? Questions, comments, concerns, short debates, long debates about those? Well, we're getting there. This one, it's interesting what happens on this. Again, I want a proportion, but I'm not going to put this with this. I'm not going to try to put those two together. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put those two fractions together. Okay? So to get a common denominator, what I'm going to do is multiply this by x over x. So what I've got is x over x minus 15 equals x minus 10 all over x. Do you see how I did that? Basically what I did is I took this term and put it over here on this side of the equation. Okay. So cross multiplying gives us x squared equals x squared minus 25x plus 150. And the x squareds cancel. So 25x equals 15. And so x equals 15 over 25. Those are both divisible by, I said over 25. Those are both divisible by 5. That's going to be 3/5. 3/5. Wait a minute. That can't be right. Something wrong. Something bad happened. Something very bad happened on this one. Oh, I see what happened. I said 150, didn't I? But I didn't write 150. Let's back that thing up a minute. Not going to say it. I said 150, but I didn't write 150. 25x equals 150. So x equals 150 divided by 25. That's, I believe it's 6. It'll be 6. Said 150 and wrote 15. Because that happens. Question. So the question is, where did x squared minus 25x plus 150 came from? That was a result of the cross product right here. When I do that cross product, I've got x minus 15 times x minus 10, and FOILing gives me x squared minus 15x minus 10x plus 150. Okay. Good question. How we doing? All right? We've got a few more to get through. 2 more, actually. Well, this one, we need a common denominator. I could multiply each fraction by something, but I'm not going to. I'm going to multiply this by x plus 4 over x plus 4. And then I'm going to go ahead and bring this term over to this side. So when I do that, I'm going to have x over x plus 9. I'm going to have x plus 4 minus x all over x plus 4. So that's going to just be 4 over x plus 4. There we go. Everybody catch what I did there? Let me fill in some of the steps here. what I've got going on is x over x plus 4 equals x over x plus 9. No, plus that equals x plus 4 over x plus 4. And then what I'm going to do is subtract x over x plus 4. So I subtract x over x plus 4. So when I do that, this x and this x kind of go away. So I end up with, on the right, 4 over x plus 4. And on the left, I end up with just this term, just this x over x plus 9 there. Okay. So here's my resulting equation then that I'm trying to solve. Now I've got a proportion, and now I can, what do I do when I solve a proportion? What do I do when I solve a proportion? Mathway.com. Wolfram Alpha. Go ask Mr. Camuso. Drive down Knowledge Road. Hey, the 4x's cancel, don't they? Ha! X squared is 36. I said x squared equals 36. So we get plus or minus 6. Plus or minus 6 wouldn't make anything weird happen. We get plus or minus 6. That's it. Here we go. Well, that's pretty cool. 2 answers on that one. It happens. It happens. Questions, comments, concerns, short debates about that one? Well, we got one more left. On the test, there's one question that I'm not going to be going over. It involves writing an equation. Yeah, we got a question. Yeah. You know, on the test, there's one question about boats and whatnot, and it has you writing a proportion and finding some stuff about boats. So you're on your own on that one. I'd like to give a shout out to Mr. Walker for taking all the sophomores to the zoo this week. And for talking in the third person. Not many people do that anymore. So here we go. On this one, what I am going to do is I am going to multiply this fraction by x minus 6 over x minus 6. And I'm going to multiply this fraction by x plus 6 over x plus 6. And when I do that, what's going to happen to my denominators? The denominators will all be the same, right? So the denominator is going to go away. I'm going to have x squared minus 6x over x minus 6 and x plus 6 plus 6x plus 36 over x minus 6 times x plus 6. And that equals 7x plus 30 over x plus 6 and x minus 6. So I end up with 7x plus 30 over x plus 6 and x minus 6. Over here, x squared doesn't have any like terms. Minus 6x plus 6x, those cancel, so I get x squared minus 36. No, plus 36 over x minus 6 and x plus 6. So my denominators kind of go away, and I get x squared plus 36 equals 7x plus 30. So I get x squared minus 7x plus 6 equals 0. And I get x minus 1 and x minus 6 equals 0. So I think the answers are 1 and 6. I think the answers are 1 and 6, but if I use 6, it doesn't work. So the only answer here is what? Just 1. 1's the only answer. And that's it. Those are 19 questions on the test. On the test, it's going to be multiple choice. There's going to be different variables. Yeah, question. So what I wanted to do right from the beginning is take these two fractions and make them 1. So to do that, I multiply the one over here. If I look over here, my denominator is x plus 6 and x minus 6. So the fraction over here, I multiply by x minus 6 over x minus 6 to get the common denominator. So I multiply this by x plus 6 over x plus 6. From the original equation, yeah. This original equation didn't change until, like, it basically just kind of stayed the same. Yeah. Okay. And then once I got the same denominator, then I just go ahead and combine like terms and get the numerator there. And then the denominator kind of goes away, and then I just get it equal to 0 and factor. Okay. Remember, if the denominators are the same, then the numerators are just set equal, and the denominators would basically what would happen if you did a proportion, they would cross cancel. Let me just show you something real quick. Suppose you had a smiley face over 8 equals a triangle over 8. Okay. If you cross multiplied, what you would get is smiley face times 8 equals triangle times 8, right? So the 8s would cancel. So that's kind of why they go away. Okay. All right, well, that's it. It's been real. It's been fun. Hope everybody has a terrific Monday. And the pencil paper test will be on Wednesday. Bring a pencil. It is Scantron. The Math Excel quiz will have netbooks tomorrow. The Math Excel quiz is due by tomorrow night. So if you haven't taken it yet, you want to get started on that too.